Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely need to manage our resources as good as we can. Meat is not the cheapest protein on the planet. I mean, we can use it. We need to utilize ruminants, et cetera, to convert some non-edible products into edible products, and that's a great thing about livestock. We can take a resource that humans can't use, and we can turn it into something they can use.
Welcome to MeatsPad, a platform dedicated to sharing breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the meats industry. On each episode, we will hear from meat specialists and professionals to talk about numerous topics in meat science. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, the Niche Meat Processor Assistance Network, UltraSource, the new standard for innovation. Viscofan is a global leader and innovative partner in the food industry who provides solutions for the casing market.
IFA, slaughter and meat processing tools.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. Today, we continue our conversations with meat scientists, meat industry leaders here at AMP, the 83rd edition. And today, we're honored to have one of my professors back at K-State, now at Iowa State meat science, meat extension specialist, Dr. Terry Hauser. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Francisco, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
It's been a while.
Welcome. And finally, I've been asking you for months and months, and I feel honored that finally we got time to sit down and we know situation, pandemic, your kids, my kids, but now we're in Iowa, and I'm just so happy to have you on the podcast.
Well, I'm grateful to be here, Francisco. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing at Iowa State.
Okay.
A little bit about your role as extension specialist. I know you have a lot of things on your agenda for this year yet, and welcome again.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it's great to be here and talk about our program. I was fortunate enough to get to come to Iowa State, back to where I went to school, and take over the very successful extension program that they've developed over many, many years. And so generally, most of my position is related to extension, and I think most people know that we do a lot of processed meats short courses, and we're very active in that part of the training industry for adult learners. And so we have 4 processed meats short courses during the year. We have a cured meat course, a basic sausage course. We have a dry and semi-dry sausage course. And then we're getting ready to host our summer course, which kind of goes through all of the different products. Since coming to Iowa State, you mentioned pandemic, right? We all talk about that. We had a tremendous amount of questions regarding fresh meat processing. And so we have added significantly to our offerings of short course programming in the beef and the pork space. And so currently we have been running 2 fresh beef courses a year. We have our own fresh pork course, and we also do a Pork 101 in conjunction with the American Meat Science Association. So due to just unprecedented demand in that space, we have a lot of people that are wanting to start their own locker business or expand their beef or pork operation. In addition to that, we got a lot of producers that are interested in knowing more about it in case they want to get into the business. And as we both know, there's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of things that you need to know. It's not a business you just jump in overnight. And so there needs to be places that you can go and learn about the entire process. So that's what we're trying to do at Iowa State.
Well, you heard it, folks. I think for some of you wanting to get more in depth about meat science, meat processing, fresh beef processing, I think this is a good opportunity for the audience and for people listening to contact you and contact the Iowa State Department, the Iowa State University Meat Science Department, And we have other things that we like to cover today.
Sure.
And among those topics, we had a lot of questions and a lot of new folks. We have a lot of new members here in the AMP community that I don't know, maybe not very familiar with cattle pricing and meat prices. So I know at K-State, I was first exposed to the USDA Carlot sheet? With you and
Yep.
we took a course with that with was it meat technology, or I took a bunch of classes under you. So, can you please tell us the importance of the USDA Carlot? How meat processors, especially small meat-sized meat processors, can utilize that information and take advantage of that.
Price transparency is very important, at least in the U.S. meat industry, or any industry for that matter. So in the livestock industry or the beef industry, we'll use beef specifically. We have two main ways of seeing some price transparency in the marketplace, so we know really kind of what cattle are worth and what those meat products are worth. And so USDA produces what they call the Carlot meat report. That is published every week for the preceding trades or meat trades that have occurred in the open market. So that doesn't take into effect forward contracted prices or anything like that. But I think what it does is it gives us a pretty good idea of what's happening on that spot market. So those are the transactions that occur between a packer and a retailer or a distributor. And if you look up the Carlot meat report, you'll see the first several pages are beef prices. They use the Institutional Meat Purchase Specifications, or IMPS, numbering system to report those prices. Okay, so for instance, if you're interested in, let's say, a 112A lip-on ribeye, you can look that up. It'll indicate what the price range is. It'll tell you the volume of product that's sold. It'll tell you the number of trades that occurred. In addition to that, it'll give you a weighted average for what those prices, what that cut brings. So what I like to tell folks, especially small or medium-sized processors, is this is really the only, well, there are some commercial ones. Erner Berry, for example, gives some meat pricing that's certainly valuable. But this is really the USDA Carlot meat report is the only document that you can really access very easily and for free that can give you an idea of where prices are. It's certainly not perfect, but it gives us an idea what those products should roughly be worth, okay, in the open market. It is valuable for a lot of reasons. I think one of the things that I pull out of the report is seasonality of pricing. It might not be to the tenth of, to the dime or to the nickel accurate, but it certainly can tell us when we have increases in demand. Okay. If you use it as an example, if you look in the fall of the year, we have a tremendous pull for ribs and tenderloins before Christmas time or the holidays, and that's reflected in that pricing on that sheet. So I think producers, or at least processors, if you are not aware of seasonality in prices with meat, there certainly is. We know that for instance, ribeyes get expensive before Christmas. Hams get more expensive before Easter. Trim gets more expensive as we get into the summer months, where we're using a lot of those products for further processed meats. So the USDA Carlot meat report is one that I look at a lot, especially if I'm talking to smaller producers or processors, because that'll give them an idea what these meat products are worth on the open market. Now, we can also use the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. As far as if we look at live cattle prices, it can give us a longer-term view of where cattle prices, or for that matter, lean hog prices, are headed. So Francisco, you and I just looked at some of those prices on my phone, and we were talking about the fact that fat cattle prices are expected to be in the $1.50 range per pound going into next year. So if we put that on a historical basis, that is some of the highest cattle prices that we have seen historically. And so it's also telling us, no, they don't have to be right. They're somewhat of a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Estimations.
Yeah, they're the best. They're the best estimate we have at the current time. So by looking at the CME, it gives us a longer term look, and those contracts are over a year out for the live cattle contract. And again, it's clearly indicating that beef prices are going higher into the future. So I think next October cattle are at $1.50. So 2023 cattle are $1.50, and that's a good $15 a hundredweight higher than where we're at right now. So I think that's important to know. What we think right now with what we know, cattle prices are going to go higher. And you may ask, why is that the case? So many, we hear about drought in California in the Southwest, and now in Texas, we had major drought in the high plains into North Dakota, Montana, South Dakota last year. Some of that drought's easing, but we still are not out of this drought. Now it's getting worse in the southern plains. So whenever we have these massive drought issues, cattle herds decrease in size. So if we look at the information from the last 4 to 5 years of the cattle inventory here in the United States, that cattle inventory has decreased. And I believe the last numbers that I saw, we are now at beef cattle numbers below 30 million head of mama cows. And so when we get to those levels, certainly we are in a liquidation phase at this point in time. Adding to that, with many factors around the world, we have a high set of grain prices that we're dealing with, and since we feed our cattle in the United States, Canada, and some in Australia and other parts of the world, certainly the price of grain will impact our break-even costs that we have in the feed yard.
Transportation too, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's one that I didn't throw in there, but yeah, when the cost of hauling cattle a loaded mile almost doubles, we have significant expenses to pay for. So all of those expenses, or inflation, if we want to call it, they've all added up to it's harder to make money in the cattle industry. So until we have greener pastures, it's going to be tougher for us to increase or want to increase our cattle herd. So something to keep in mind, as I tell most people, with the life cycle of the beef production, when we start keeping females back, it takes a great deal of time, 3 to 4 years, before another animal is produced from that female after it's fully fed out. Okay, so this is not a short-term issue. We will be seeing higher meat costs, or at least beef costs, for the foreseeable future.
The mission of USMEF is to increase the value and profitability of the U.S. beef, pork, and lamb industries by enhancing demand for their products in export markets through a dynamic partnership of all stakeholders. Simply put, USMEF is putting U.S. meat on the world's table. Since 1883, Ultrasource has been a trusted supplier to the food industry. Ultrasource provides superior kill floor, processing, packaging, and labeling equipment and operational supplies.
So
that, along with the after the pandemic, we saw a lot of the cattle, and we talk about Dr. Fieldbass on that cattle is becoming bigger. Yep. Right? That's and to me, that's one of the things, like as meat scientists and meat industry advocates, if meat becomes higher in price, that means like throughout the supply chain, we have to make sure that is used by the end consumer. That's why packaging, there's a huge impact that can have an impact on shelf life, because every pound, and it's going to be so valuable, right? Yep. So I don't know, getting back to that point, like, okay, if meat becomes more expensive in the next couple of years, we see a lot. I just came back from the IFA show in Germany. So a lot of the meat industry, all the equipment is also targeting plant-based products to maybe counteract, meat is going to become higher and higher, maybe other proteins that I'm not in favor, but I'm not against, because there's a community that might not be or that meat, those prices especially are not accessible. They're not
Mm-hmm.
they're not at a cost, especially in those developing countries where, you know, what can you say about that? Like that combination between, or your thoughts on plant-based? I know that was not on the agenda, but I think, I mean, it's a situation, right?
Sure.
Meat is
Sure.
becoming more expensive, and
Yeah, at the end of the day, people got to eat, and if they can't afford meat, they're going to have something else to go to. So certainly, historically, plant-based products, especially soy-based products, have fit that, haven't they? In part of the developing world. So I don't think that's going away. I honestly, when I think about what we do, need plant-based protein. We don't have enough meat protein to feed this planet.
you think we have to do more as meat scientists, including more on courses like Iowa State, or I don't know. That's probably in the future. It's going to be, rather than fighting that industry, is like, let's include them into a maybe not 100% meat, but maybe
Sure.
50-50, because we saw a lot of hybrids. Like you have 50% beef or pork in the formulation, but you're adding other things into that, and there's a different metrics.
Yep. No, I think you're spot on that. We only have so many resources across the globe, and we certainly know that there's going to be the need to extend or stretch our meat protein supply so that we can feed as many people as we can. So I think that's a valid point. I'm not a big hey, let's do plant-based protein just because you don't want to eat meat, because I don't think there's anything wrong with eating meat. I think that's why the good Lord put animals on the planet, for us to manage and, you know, be a food source. So yeah, absolutely. We absolutely need to manage our resources as good as we can. Meat is not the cheapest protein on the planet. I mean, we can use it. We need to utilize ruminants, et cetera, to convert some non-edible products into edible products. And that's a great thing about livestock. You know, we can take a resource that humans can't use, and we can turn it into something they can use. So, we are going to have some challenges, Francisco, that we're going to have to probably get out of our box in our mindset and do what we need to do to be successful going forward. One of the topics I did want to touch on when we think about that is that I don't really see the resource so much as the meat resource itself as being the limiting factor. What we're at Iowa State and some others around the country are really focused on is the workforce that we need. The pandemic showed us we can have all the animals we want waiting to go into a kill floor. But if we can't harvest them, we can't utilize them. So something the audience really needs to think about is, where are we going to get this workforce? What are we doing today that's going to affect us 10 years down the road? And that's where we're at. We're kind of at rock bottom when it comes to in all of agriculture, is to find more people, train them so that we can produce a food product here that's nutritious and safe and all that. And it takes a lot of hands, as you know, because you're, as a teacher there at K-State, when you're in school, you know that people don't just know this stuff when they wake up in the morning. They have to be taught, and they have to have experiences, and we as educators got to get in there, and we got to do our fair share on that and really up our game, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think to wrap up, I have an additional 2 questions for you, and I think it's more for your work, and going back to you said back at K-State, it was the first exposure on the kill floor, and it was, to me, it was a non-traditional way in Mexico, but here's it's pretty normal that on the first year on a grad school or even some of the junior level classes, senior level classes, to be exposed and be on the kill floor to get. And I like what you used to say. You're not born knowing everything. So the only way to learn a job, to learn a skill, is by, I don't know, you used to say, like, by destroying the carcass. That's the only way you'll learn. I mean, and it's that patience that you still have to instill those values to the young grad students, the young meat scientists. I think that's I value that a lot. Not a lot of people get you that experience. So
Yep.
and again, those guys 6 years ago, I mean, now I'm here, but I went through all that process that helps you, right? So I don't know. That's having good faculty and good teachers, and I admire you for that. And the other thing is how to communicate science to processors. And I think I want to wrap up the episode about that topic because, yeah, well, you know, all the science and PhDs, but if you're not able to translate that knowledge into layman's terms so that all processors can understand, and this is one of the objectives of this podcast: communicate the things that sometimes are over even our heads and try to put it in a language that can be understood. And I think not a lot of people can do that, and you are the one. and honestly, when you communicate in a way that anyone can understand. So who taught you that? Or
Well, I tell you, it's probably because all the Nebraskans that watch this will find this hilarious. But since I grew up in rural Nebraska, we didn't. Our education system's good, but I don't have the greatest range of vernacular. So I'm a simple guy. So that I always think to myself, how would I understand it if I didn't know anything about the subject matter? So I try to start from there. But certainly, people talk over my head all the time. Okay, I had to. It's funny because when we were talking about egregious animal handling, I had to go look it up after USDA told us we had a problem with it, which most people laugh at. I didn't know what the word was. So I just think of when I try to teach something, I take it down to, I start by, okay, what if you didn't know anything about this subject? How would you relate to it? What do you know in your own life or you do every day that you could relate it to? And then you elevate the conversation from there. And so if my dad went to the 8th grade, I used to talk to him about my research projects, and he'd say, "Hey son, how's everything going?" And I'd start talking. About 30 minutes or 30 seconds into the conversation, he'd say, "Sounds good, son." That's all we need to know about that, you know. So it's very easy for all of us to talk over someone that doesn't know the language or the
terminology.
Yeah, the terminology of what you're doing. So if we remember that, which is hard to remember all the time, right? If we remember that and we start off and we define our terms pretty well and relate them to your audience, you get along a lot better. And so, but no, I was a benefit of, I didn't grow up around educated people. They were very hardworking, but nobody in my family went to college. And so when I go and I tell them what I do, it's certainly I got to back off on some of the big words that we learn there in college, and it helps. So put it in layman's terms.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thank you for that. And one of the things, like, if you know the fundamentals, let's say the myoglobin triangle, understand how the lipid oxidation works. As long as you understand some of the basics and you understand those well, in 20 years, I mean, you're going to have him here. So it's one of those things, like, you don't think about all this at school, because once you graduate, you don't go back as like studying and being in the classroom and all those things that you see on a daily basis that helps you down the road. So we have more topics, but maybe in the future, next year, in a couple of years, we keep doing this. And
sure.
If you guys like this content, we have other topics that I'd like to discuss with you.
Yep,
and,
absolutely. Well, if I could make a comment or two for our audience, the only thing I would tell you is if you can try to make a difference, do it locally. You know, they say charity starts at home. You know, start a 4-H meat judging group, or teach somebody how to cook, or you know, just tell somebody what you do. And we need all the help we can. We're really important. A pandemic has really shown us that food is pretty darn important. We all kind of knew that, but kind of forgot. And I don't know. I hope people are proud to be in the industry we have, because we're really important to society. and it's not going away. We got some major challenges, but we're going to have to do it together, and we can't just rely on somebody else to educate people. We got to do our part. So that's what I'd leave people with, and I think we can accomplish a lot, but we're all going to have to get off our butts and do it.
And do the work. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Hauser. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more content here at the MeatsPad podcast. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.